So you've heard about this guy called Jeffrey Epstein, right? He's the guy who, if he had become a right-wing demagogue shortly before being arrested and murdered, would be uncritically loved and defended by the conservative establishment today. I've said it before, and I'll say it a million times over. Right now, the predictable career path for any rapist is to just become a conservative. Did you see Kevin Spacey did a whole thing recently with Tucker Carlson? Kevin Spacey, like, Tucker Carlson dedicates his platform to propagandizing about, like, homosexual pedophiles, and then he goes and does a bit with a homosexual pedophile. Again, if you are a rapist or a pedophile or whatever else, just become a Republican. I'll never forget how funny it was that Elon Musk literally tweeted, "Hey, I'm a Republican now, so if you see any critical news coverage, it's coming out because they hate me for defying the establishment." And then no less than 24 hours later, the whole story, which had been going on for months, of him sexually harassing an employee and offering to buy her a horse to suck his dick or whatever, came out. Great stuff. Anyway, Jeffrey Epstein, everyone's problematic fave, dead. You may have heard of this. Following long series of, procedural court shenanigans, finally, we're going to get the official publication of a bunch of priorly redacted names concerning his flight logs. We've seen Epstein's black book, his like personal penned list of people he had dirt on. Now we're going to see some more official stuff, the flight logs, previously only known as Jane Doe or John Doe. So this will be fun. The documents are expected to include nearly 200 names, including some of Epstein's accusers, prominent business people, politicians, and potentially more. Up until now, those people were identified only as Jane Doe or John Doe. Some of Epstein's former friends and associates have been publicly named in media reports. Several became public during the 2021 trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. The unsealed documents come out more than 4 years after Epstein died in jail while awaiting federal sex trafficking charges. But last month, Judge Preska ordered the documents to be released with nearly 200 names unredacted. Some names, including those of accusers who are under 18, will remain anonymous. That's okay. If you're on the Epstein flight logs and you were under 18, you were not a perpetrator. You were a victim. So we'll keep you anonymous. By the way, Trump is on there multiple times. Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein is not exactly a secret. Trump was bragging about how he and Epstein both liked little girls. Where's that exact quote? "I've known Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years, terrific guy," Trump told New York Magazine that year for a story headlined, "Jeffrey Epstein, international money man of mystery." This is from 2002. "He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." As your lawyer, I am encouraging you to keep posting. How do conservatives even defend this? They don't care. Conservatives are pedophiles. I'm not kidding. Conservative attitudes towards sexual and gender roles necessitate a defense of pedophilia politically convenient to you. It's no, fully. Like, there was, not only did this not keep Trump from being president, nobody cares. The only people on the right who even acknowledge the fact that Trump and Epstein were friends, Trump wasn't just on the flight logs, they were friends. Like, their relationship was, like, much closer. The only people who even acknowledge this are the QAnon types, and they've copium pill delusionally, they've convinced themselves that Donald Trump was actually fighting some kind of anti-deep state war, and he was only faking a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein to get closer to the people in power. While there may not be a bombshell in the documents, any new details about Epstein's activities could provide fodder for future lawsuits. With Epstein dead and Maxwell in prison, prosecutors could still pursue co-conspirators. The unsealing also underscores the lack of a resolution for Epstein's accusers. Prosecutors indicted Epstein in 2019, accusing him of preying upon and sexually abusing dozens of girls, some as young as 14, in his homes in New York and Palm Beach, Florida. While awaiting trial, He died by suicide. Of course, of course. So yeah, the main names we're going to see here are Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were both close friends with Epstein. A bunch of right-wingers have already said, like, lefties are going to have to lose their hero, Bill Clinton, as if anyone gives a fuck about Bill Clinton anymore, you know? Obama replaced Bill Clinton as, like, the neoliberal steward of the Democratic Party anyway, and as far as I know, Obama didn't know Epstein, so... Alan Dershowitz too. Yeah, send him to jail. I don't give a again, it's all bad faith. It's all whataboutism. Conservatives knowingly elected a friend of Epstein after it was known, like ridiculous. Jeffrey Epstein's old flight logs showing trips by Presidents Clinton and Trump resurface again ahead of upcoming document dump. Oh, this is old. These flight logs, this is from a few years back. They're saying resurface, like people care again now.
Did you see this? New reports say former President Bill Clinton is going to be identified as one of several John Does named in previously redacted documents related to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Alexandria Hoff joins us now with more on.
Yeah, he was already on the flight logs. The association already existed. That's not new information. That's not, yeah.
This developing story. Hey, Alex.
Hey, Griff. Yeah, and Clinton is not the only big name expected to be released in this. Currently, within the hundreds of pages of sealed court filings related to Epstein, there are more than 150 individuals identified only as John or Jane Does. But the legal masking is about to come off. Last month, a Manhattan federal judge ruled that there was no justification to continue to have documents sealed in the settled case involving an Epstein accuser and the convicted sex offender is now jailed associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The documents are expected to be unredacted and released as early as tomorrow, and among those named, former President Bill Clinton. That's according to ABC News, which notes that the 77-year-old is mentioned more than 50 times within the lengthy court text. The references will likely come from attempts to have Clinton testify against Epstein and Maxwell. The ABC News report mentions that there is no indication that the records contain any evidence of illegal conduct or allegations of wrongdoing by Clinton, although the accuser in the case did claim that she met the former president on Epstein's private island. Clinton's lawyers have maintained that he ended contact with Epstein in 2005.
Wait, they're fully not even going to mention Trump, even though Oh, this is New York Post, not Fox News. Sorry, I thought for a second I was on the wrong side. Well, good on the New York Post for mentioning Trump when Fox News wouldn't, I suppose. And some say he likes young girls just as much as I do. Fantastic stuff. Trump took at least 7 trips on a private plane between 93 and 97, sometimes members of his family. Did they finally release the documents? No, we're still waiting on it. I think we don't know when exactly they're going to release, but I don't know. It's all just to be released, you know? Or has it been released? Nope. Still says will be unsealed. It'll probably be tomorrow. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. God damn.
Coming as soon as today in the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking case, a New York judge could unveil the names of nearly 200 people associated with the disgraced financier who died by suicide while in prison back in 2019.
Yeah, this has been a long-awaited.
They're just us. They're not getting released. I think they're going to get released. Do you want to hear me be conspiratorial? It's Jeffrey Epstein, so you know if one is to be conspiratorial, here is the environment in which it should be done. So Jeffrey Epstein was a very powerful person who prided himself on constantly maintaining ties to other people in power. Like he wanted to be like a power broker, a social epicenter. And he knew a lot of people. Many people have met Epstein or gotten along with him or been to his island. Most of them probably never had children. The whole point of Epstein's association was that, like, he is a power broker. You know, if you are in power and you want to meet other people in power, you have to go through him. He probably met, God, thousands and thousands of people that we'll never hear about, unnamed on documents, who only met him briefly, using him as a connection to other people. Now, obviously, the more committedly you spend time with Epstein, the more suspect your association becomes. But I don't think everyone who went to Epstein's island was a pedophile. In fact, that would defeat the point. The whole point for Epstein was to align himself with so many people, to be so socially entrenched in the the political system and media and everything else, that it becomes essentially impossible to go after him because he has enough dirt on you and everyone else that he's like, his goal was to become, Jeffrey Epstein. What do you want? His goal was to become like a pillar holding up the system. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm talking about, correct? Like, to make himself so essential that you can't go after him anymore. Now, many wealthy and powerful people are pedophiles. I think this is because power rots the brain, especially power in this form. We're talking power in capital and political finance, not like union leads or whatever. And he absolutely ran a sex trafficking gambit for them as well. That's been known for decades. That's not new. My guess is that that was more of a side business for him. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was obscenely wealthy and knew a lot of people. If you're a billionaire and you want to engage in pedophilia, you probably don't need to go through somebody as powerful as Jeffrey Epstein to do that. You think Musk would have to? Like, I'm sure he could snap his fingers, you know, when you're that powerful. I think in all likelihood, like most of what Jeffrey Epstein did was power brokering. Now, what they got him on, the sex trafficking bit, obviously, that's going to implicate a lot of people by association. I mean, anyone who's in the, anyone who's been to the island now is suspect. I imagine most everyone associated with Epstein knew that he was a sex trafficker, or at least most people did. What I think is happening here is that the documents of his associations aren't going to implicate the people on the document the same way that his testimony could. I think Jeffrey Epstein was killed or allowed to die, whatever you prefer. You know, I certainly don't think he just accidentally killed himself during a camera outage, guards weren't there, blah, blah, you know, whatever. Supposed to be on suicide watch, allowed it, blah, I don't buy any of that shit. No, he either was killed or was allowed or compelled to kill himself. That's what I believe. No one can convince me otherwise, except for, you know, some data proving otherwise, which I'm not going to see. And the logs they're going to release give names, they implicate people, but it's not like they're like extensive legal documents proving that people did certain things at certain dates. Whereas Epstein personally probably knew enough things that he could testify to bring down a bunch of powerful people. Does that make sense? Like, what is going to be released are a bunch of names. Whereas what Epstein had locked up in his brain was enough conjecture to sink half the American political system and a bunch of wealthy people and financiers to boot. The data in his mind, the information he had, was potentially much more dangerous than this like list of names we're going to get. So for that reason, he had to die. This document, you know, I'm sure there are people who don't want it to be released. I mean, I saw that Republican who said they didn't want it released because it would implicate their... Oh, he must have Beetle Moses.
List, and that list is expected to include
Shut up! This one, yeah. Republican says colleagues compromised over Jeffrey Epstein flight logs, said they... yeah. So I'm sure that a lot of people will find the release of this information extremely inconvenient, but I don't think it's as potentially destructive as testimony from Epstein could potentially be, you know, like he knew a lot of people in the UK political scene as well. Oh yeah, I mean, he knew lots of people, an ungodly number of people. Well, sure, we'll finish the video. Maybe it's just a movie trope, but wouldn't it have been smart for Epstein to have his evidence somewhere besides in his head? You mean like a dead drop? Yeah, like after he, like, don't kill me because if I die, this info will come out. My guess is that he did, because it would be insane for him to not have done that, and that it was managed by people who were either gotten to first by other individuals who could have been implicated, or like Ghislaine Maxwell worked out a deal. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently in prison. She might have been offered a deal too good to refuse. I don't really know. When people this powerful are doing shenanigans on this level, it's reasonable to assume there's a lot of like back end stuff we're never really going to know about until, like, I don't know, 50 years from now, somebody's going to write a tell-all or somebody's going to find some dusty tome of information. I don't really know. I'm sure a lot of effort has been put into keeping some information that Epstein had or possibly left behind quiet. But who knows? Certainly not me.
High-profile and well-known names, including President Bill Clinton and also Britain's Prince Andrew. Dre Clark is live in New York with more on this expected list. Dre?
Well, good morning. This could potentially be very embarrassing for a lot of prestigious people, and we could start seeing those names.
I'm just going to say this because I don't want to be accused, I guess, of being irresponsible here. You know how when people like Bill Cosby are implicated in doing something bad, a bunch of other people come out and they're like, yeah, we also had a bad experience with him. Like, it's really common if a big celebrity or politician has dirt on them that a bunch of other people come out and they're like, yeah, me as well. Do you think it's interesting that somebody with as many connections as Jeffrey Epstein hasn't had a bunch of his former associates come out with like tell-all books they could make guaranteed millions off of, explaining everything? The absence of that book drop, the absence of that media push suggests to me that they fear for their lives, which is not a historically unprecedented idea. Like, hey, here's an insanely powerful power broker. We have connections literally everywhere. Like, there is a ton of people who are associated with him who really don't want their associations to be known. It would be bad for your health to like do a tell-all. The fact, like, because you'd think otherwise, a ton of people in those flight logs would be writing like books on their time there, right? There have even been people who have said, yeah, I was on those flight logs, I was in the little black book, but I just went there for like one thing and I went back. Haven't they come across as rather like, I don't know, conservative and tight-lipped about the information? Like, right? You'd think that if it was a perfectly open and fair environment, they would all be like, this is a second-by-second detailing of my time there to implicate me, or sorry, to clear me of the implication that I participated in child sex trafficking or whatever. Like, you'd think they'd be like, okay, here, hold on. Here's like everything I know. You'd think they do that, but they don't. Nobody does that for some strange reason. Probably because, and this should be, I don't even think this is conspiratorial, frankly. I think it's like pretty straightforward. Obviously, somebody who acts as, who's as much of a power broker as Epstein would, a lot of people wouldn't want you doing a tell-all. And if a lot of very powerful, wealthy people don't want you spilling information, they have ways of making you not, like asking you, because of the implication. I don't think that's particularly conspiratorial. In fact, I think you would need a bigger conspiracy to explain all the behavior associated with Jeffrey Epstein's island and associations and all the thousands of people he knew, I think you would need like a way more contrived, weird explanation for why all the, some alien shit, for why we haven't gotten that tell-all. Couldn't you do it anonymously? I don't think it's possible to do something anonymously when that many powerful people would want you to stay quiet. Like, publish how? Like, they'd have to get it back to you. The information you reveal, that could implicate you like that. I don't think there is a way. They've probably been pretty careful about it, I feel. What do you think about the TrueAnon podcast? No, there's a correct answer. They're retards. Not just because they don't like me, though disliking me is enough of a reason for me to call a group of people retards if I want to, but because their conspiracy bait horseshit denigrates actual analysis of like material. Like, they're like 9/11 conspiracy theory. They're like truthers, they're like everything's a conspiracy, blah blah blah. It's like a psyop, it's like shit like that actually denigrates real leftist analysis because it reduces everything down to did you know powerful people don't like your interest? In this case, however, I think that like I'm kind of doing like the, what's it called, Hanlon's razor. I feel like what I'm describing with regards to Epstein and the lack of a tell-all is pretty pretty on the nose, probably the easiest explanation for this weird behavior. That's Hamlin's razor. Wait, no, that's Howard Hamlin. Howard Hamlin's razor, that's right.
As early as this morning, federal judge Loretta Preska said she saw no legal reason to keep the name sealed, although she did allow those individuals who would like to keep their names confidential to go ahead and file an appeal, and she would take it into consideration, but she made no guarantee she would be granting their wish. Now, at this point in time, none of the individuals who will be named are facing criminal charges or prosecution, but more...
It's Occam's razor? Wait, then what is Hammond's razor? No, it's Hanlon, not Hammond. Hanlon. Never attribute to malice, which is... Oh, I was wrong. I was thinking of Occam's razor. Why did you guys just critique my pronunciation when I was thinking of a different razor? And why there are two things that are called razor? I'm going to confuse them. Occam's razor. Simplest explanation. The name was inspired by Occam's razor. Why would you do that? Okay, whatever. Because we're idiots? Well, no more an idiot than I am, apparently. There are like 8 razors. Modern razors, all their goddamn blades.
Morally, their character could be called into question for being associated with the man who was convicted of sex crimes against children. Now, on that list are men and women who up until now have had the protection of discretion.
I actually hate the fact that everyone just uses this picture of him. Why not use all the pictures of him palling around with famous people? Like, you only show him in prison because it's like, I don't know, the implication is like, oh yeah, this was just this like one sex trafficker. No, dude, he was friends with like everyone in power, and they all knew. Like, show him around the place.
expression from the court through sealed court documents. Men,
Blue
women,
steel.
former Jeffrey Epstein associates, employees, and friends could
Here
also
we go.
be named, as well as some of his alleged sex trafficking victims. Since it was announced days ago that Judge Preska would be unsealing the names, the anticipation and the intrigue has been building. The big question is, who are the powerful and prominent men and women listed?
We'll have to see if there may be politicians. It would be very interesting because
Maybe there might be, possibly there, perhaps.
200 names is obviously a vast network of individuals, and to be in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit can certainly be problematic for them.
Not really. At least 2 U.S. presidents have been in his orbit.
Now, one name that we are expecting to see is former President Bill Clinton. He is mentioned in more than 50 of the redacted court filings. Mr. Clinton has acknowledged he used Epstein's private jet for trips overseas for his humanitarian efforts, but he denies he did anything illegal, and there's been no evidence indicating he did anything wrong. Mr. Clinton also saying that he stopped associating with Epstein in 2005. Now, all of the names on that list were either mentioned or documented as part of a now settled 2015 civil lawsuit against Epstein's longtime partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, brought by Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre accused Maxwell of helping Epstein sexually traffic and abuse her as a teenager. Giuffre also claiming that as a teenager, she was sexually assaulted by Epstein's close friend, Prince Andrew. The prince denies these accusations, but did pay Giuffre a multi-million-dollar settlement.
I love to pay multi-million-dollar settlements to quiet people who credibly accuse me of raping me as a child alongside a person who I'm known to have associated with.
After she came forward with those allegations. Now, Judge Preska says that many of the people who will be named, they are already known because those individuals either did media interviews about their relationship and association with Jeffrey Epstein, or they have been named in other public court documents. Adrian?
Yeah, we should do like a betting pool. It's like, what do you think? What if we got some like wild cards on there? Obama and Joe Biden are obvious wild cards. Bernie Sanders, you know, that'd be funny. There's a lot of people who there already is. Yeah, probably. Here, hold on. Epstein log betting pool. Where? Because there's going to be like a bunch of betting pools. Hillary Clinton, probably. Donald Trump Sr., maybe. Rudy Giuliani, that would make sense. Rudy Giuliani seems likely. Andrew Cuomo. I'd be surprised if Joe Biden or Barack Obama ever used the jets. PewDiePie? Oh yeah, of course. Taylor Swift? Nixon. Court records related to Jeffrey Epstein are set to be released, but they aren't a client list. Bet 1 month sub if Cornel West will be on it. Oh shit. Hell yeah. They've gotten in enough trouble. Has anyone ever fallen off so hard as Cornel West? Remember when everyone was talking about him and then he switched parties 50 times and then it turned out he owed a bunch in taxes and child support? Incredible stuff. Very serious candidate. Bill Cosby. I think if Bill Cosby knew Jeffrey Epstein, he wouldn't have had to rely on his methods to women, right? Like he would have had a whole system to go through. I hear Epstein didn't associate with black people. I don't know if that's true or not, but the idea that Jeffrey Epstein might be racist wouldn't really be a huge surprise to me. The documents being unsealed are part of a lawsuit filed against Maxwell in 2015 by one of Epstein's victims, Virginia Giuffre. She is one of the dozens of women who sued Epstein, saying he had abused them in their homes in New York, Florida, U.S. Virgin Islands, New Mexico. Giuffre said the summer she turned 17, she was lured away from a job as a spa attendant at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. Jesus Christ. Being a 17-year-old spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago. Oh my God. The most cursed possible job, the most predatory vibes. Unbelievable. To become a masseuse for Epstein, a job that involved performing sexual acts. Wow, what a surprise. Giuffre also claimed she was pressured into having sex with men at Epstein's social orbit, most famously Britain's Prince Andrew. All those men said her accounts were fabricated. What a surprise. She settled a lawsuit against Prince Andrew in 2022. Get that money. The same year, Giuffre withdrew an accusation she had made against Epstein's former attorney, the law professor Alan Dershowitz, saying she may have made a mistake in identifying him as an abuser. I don't know. The next batch of around 250 records had sections that were blacked out or were sealed entirely because of concerns about the privacy rights of Epstein's victims and other people whose names had come up in legal battle but weren't complicit in her crimes. Do you think Trump would sexually harass his employees? I'm curious. Epstein lived down the road from Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Didn't Epstein in New York, didn't Epstein live in something that was formerly a school? Or am I misremembering that? Herbert N. Strauss House. Strauss House. The Strauss House. A heated sidewalk is located in front of the house. I hate rich people. Jesus Christ. Believed to be the largest private residence in Manhattan. The Birch Wathen School occupied the house until 1989, a college preparatory K-12 school, presumably for the wealthiest fucks in the world, or the children thereof, when it was purchased for $13.2 million by the businessman billionaire Leslie Wexner. Jeffrey Epstein moved into the house in 1996, at which time he claimed to own it, although its registered ownership changed in 2011 to a trust controlled by both of them. Nice. You can't listen, okay? You can keep the Epstein out of the children's school. Wait. Perhaps you can't. In March 2021, former Goldman Sachs executive Michael Daffy purchased the home for $51 million, with proceeds from the sale going to the Epstein Victims Compensation Program. Oh, that's nice. Daffy secured a $30.6 million loan from Citigroup to purchase the home. So the bank loaned him the money to buy, but the purchase... okay, there worse things have happened than this specific thing, I guess. How young did Epstein go? I think the youngest person that he's been credibly accused of sexually trafficking was 14. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Steve Bannon coached Epstein to, quote, not share his racist theories and how black people learn. That's crazy, dog. Jeffrey Epstein got media training from Steve Bannon for a 60 Minutes interview that never happened, according to report. Bannon told Epstein, stick to your message, which is that you are not a pedophile. He also told the convicted rapist to not share his racist theories on how black people learn. That's so funny. All right, so I guess, yeah, Obama and Bill Clinton, not Bill Clinton, well, America's first black president, many have said, Bill Cosby, out of the running. You need to get training from Bannon. Yeah, his hot tips could really help me stick to his message, which is that he is not a pedophile. Steve Bannon in the list 4-1 odds. I actually don't think that Steve Bannon would have gone. Steve Bannon is too much of a crank outsider. I think Jeffrey Epstein wanted to be popular, you know? Like, sure, they're both pedophiles, but I feel like that's not enough, you know? You have to be like in the hip in Jeffrey Epstein club pedophile kind of, you know, you got to be in with it. I think Steve Bannon's out with it. What about Alex Jones? Doubly so Alex Jones. I'd be incredibly surprised if Alex Jones was on the list. Aren't law firms going to pounce on site once the list comes out? Well, the list isn't going to necessarily implicate anyone for any specific crimes. It's only like an indication that you were there. So maybe people will go like, oh, now that it's known they were there, my accusation that he me, you know, has some legal teeth to it. It's possible. I mean, we'll see. Nancy Pelosi, maybe. Andrew Cuomo, maybe. Tucker Carlson. I don't think Tucker Carlson. Your problem, you're thinking too much like right-wing demagogue. Epstein was friends with everyone, with people in power, with wealthy people. Like he's not like Ben Shapiro didn't go to Little St. James. You know, we're talking like establishment types. Bill O'Reilly, much more likely. Netanyahu? Actually not impossible. Wasn't Netanyahu educated in like Philadelphia or something, or Brooklyn? Didn't Philadelphia like have not impossible. Rudy Giuliani's a likely one. The list is of people who came up in the in this trial who previously had been redacted because they weren't relevant to the facts at hand in the trial. It won't be a complete list, not even a little bit. Noam Chomsky? I doubt that Noam Chomsky came up in this trial. Again, these are people who would have come up in this specific lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre, who have up until this point had their names redacted because they weren't relevant to the specific case. You guys are just saying any old name, you know? Manufacturing age of consent. Do you think Abbott and DeSantis would have been on it? No. Again, you need to think of the groups we're talking about here. DeSantis was nobody back when this all happened. Like the case refers to stuff that happened over a decade ago. They were a 17-year-old who were snatched up from Mar-a-Lago. They're an adult now filing the lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed in 2015. DeSantis was, I mean, nobody back when this happened. You've got to think of establishment figures, you know? Even Obama was not like in the game back then, you know, not really, not to the extent he would later be. You got to think of like New York, East Coast, like establishment, lots of connections with power, friendly with billionaires, you know, not just like, you know, any random political such and such. Trump? Yeah, probably Trump. Bloomberg? Maybe. What about one of the Bushes? Maybe. There might be some association there, but Bush, not to say Bush wasn't like a wealthy, you know, like the family wasn't, you know, in with that, but, nah, I don't, they're not really like East Coast. You don't have to be East Coast. It's, I don't know, seems a little bit less likely. Any foreign president you can think of? Oh, if Berlusconi was there, that'd be pretty funny though. That'd be pretty on brand. That'd be, honestly, I'd be disappointed if Berlusconi wasn't there, you know? It's around the right time, you know? They have some shared interest. Many have called Epstein, you know, the American Berlusconi. There's almost certainly a Kennedy on the list, yeah. And keep in mind, we're not seeing the full list, you know? We're only seeing redacted names from that court case. Do you think McConnell will be on that list? I think it's unlikely. All right, that's enough guessing. Well, remember, just watching isn't enough. You owe me the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you.